So what we're going to talk about today is a continuation from yesterday. I'm going to increase this so you can see this a little bit better. So when we were talking about the expansion of what was going on with the Aleph, how did you go there? Hit the wrong button. With the expansion of the Aleph, as we were diagramming it on the board, and we had the symbol and all the letters that went with it, I shared with you that the constituent letters that make up the symbol create words. We're going to go through the words right now so that you can see the additional information that is within the symbols. Because you would do this research for every single symbol.
So you're going, when you say that, I'm like, where, so I see Alaph, I see the symbol, but where are you going from that? The sound?
No, right here. On the screen, you're seeing the constituent letters right here. The Aleph, the Lamed, and the Pei.
Oh, okay. But now you're switching to the transliteration.
No, this is Aleph, Lamed, Pei. This is not, so this isn't a transliteration of the symbol. These are the letters that come together to form the symbol that are unseen, that are behind the scene in an energetic frequency that came together to create the symbol. This is why yesterday I asked you what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
So was the letters formed first and then these came about? Or did these come about to make the symbol, but really they would all have had to have done it simultaneously? Because how can I create the symbol if I don't have the energetic frequency to go in to make the symbol? But yet how can I do that without the symbol to make the energetic frequency?
Holy
right? So, but so with the spellings of the symbols, the Aleph, Lamed, Pei, the Aleph, Lamed, Pei, when you say it, Aleph is actually a word. It is a word that is written. And so this is why I'm going to show you the different definitions of what these words mean. So every symbol is made up of constituent letters that carry their vibrational frequency, and each one of those, through their paleo meanings, have a meaning per letter, and then they form a word. And all of those words are connected and focused intention into the one symbol. Okay? So when we look at this, so I pull up the Aleph, Lamed, Pei, and this is Strong's Concordance. Strong's number 502. So we're going to start on the lowest side as we're moving through the progression of all the Alephs.
Okay.
And the differences, you're going to see some vowel point differences. So you would have phonetically say it a little bit different. There are some people say that those vowel points have been manipulated. So I don't get too hung up on the vowel points, even though there's a lot more of information that you can extract from it. What I'm concerned about is the symbols themselves. So it's an Aleph, Lamed, Pei. So therefore, it's the same. They're all Aleph, Lamed, Peis, regardless of what the vowel point is saying. Does that make sense, or did I confuse you?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, so now you're seeing it on the chart of what the Aleph is, what the Lamed is, and what the Pei is. And now we're getting into the meanings of the words Aleph.
Okay, so on here, the Pei looks like a C with a little notch.
Mm-hmm.
That looks different.
Right, because that's a Pei Sophit. There are 5 letters in the Hebrew, and also it transfers into Aramaic as well, that are fallen. They're called fallen letters, but in the pure sense of what it is through Hebrew, it means it's called a Sophit. And Sophit, when you look at the root of that word, means the end. It just means like the end of something. So that letter takes the fallen position when it's at the end of a word. It's confusing, but there's meanings. And we can go into the Sophit meaning later, because I don't want to confuse it right now, but I'm glad that you caught that.
Could that mean result?
The Sophit means, okay, so I'll just share with you in the interpretation. In a simple translation, it says, in the end, they will be given the power to finish, to complete their task, to become one who's crossed over.
No.
And of course, that was said to the dog barking and not to what I just said.
Yes.
So in the end, they will be given power by the Father to complete their task in order to cross over. So all of these fallen positions have something to do with the dense earth realm. So the ones that are in the fallen position, because that's probably what you're asking, is like, which ones are in the fallen position? You said there's 5, so which ones are they? The letter Kaf has a fallen position. The letter Mem, but I would put an asterisk by that. So the Noon is a fallen, so we've got the Mem is fallen, the Noon has a fallen position. Pei, and the Zadi.
And the what?
Zadi. So those 5 letters have a fallen position, the Sophit. So in the end, they will be given power by the Father to complete their task, to complete the journey, to cross over. So those letters eventually will be all in an elevated state. The reason why I said the Mem, to put an asterisk by the Mem, is because the Mem is the only one that doesn't fall below the line when you write it. Because all of these have tails that drop down. The Mem does not. So the Mem doesn't have a fallen position because it is connected to the living waters. You're either going to be in chaos or shalom, but they're living waters. So they can't be of the dead. They can't be of the material. You know, when Yeshua said, I will give you, when he said, you have water, or I have water to give you that you have not known. And it's, yes, and it's living water. And she's like, sir, I want these. I want this. So this is connected to the Mem. So the Mem is not in a fallen position at all. So here is our first word that is from Aleph. This is the first one. It's Strong's number 502, if you want to specifically, Strong's number 502. And you can already see here at the top where it says to learn. This is just like a short little snippet of the definition. We can go all the way down here. So it's a primitive root to associate with, hence to learn, and causatively to teach. So all of that information is in that word. That's the first definition. So when you hear Ken talk about where he says, I go sideways, and I don't know if you've heard him say that before, but he'll say, I go sideways. Ken will take a look at a word, and he'll take a look at the spelling, and he'll move either to the right or the left, these little blue diamonds here. Mm-hmm. He'll either move to the left or the right to see if there's any additional spellings of those words. Because again, the energy signature frequency, even though the vowel point is different, the letters are still there. So it's all connected. Because in the original script, they did not have vowel points. There were no vowel points.
Vowel points meaning
how you pronounce it, and see when Strong's has when there's a different vowel point. So here I'll show you. So let's go back to the 502. So in this, I don't know how well you can see it. I'm probably going to have to increase it just a little bit bigger for you guys because you're far away from the TV here. Okay, that's better. So notice down here, these little things on the bottom, there's something underneath here under the Aleph. This is letting you know how to pronounce this form. Those vowel points were put in by the Masoretes. And I forget what year they did that. But they said that it was a way to keep the purity of the pronunciation the pronunciation of the words, because because there was like a loss of the language for a while, and then there was the reestablishment again. They wanted to have a concise way of pronouncing the words. Now, was it to protect it, or was it to taint it? That depends on your perspective, because I believe that simultaneously it's the same. They were same. On one side, they did it to taint it. On another side, they did it to protect it. Because there's always in the system of duality, those two things always exist simultaneously. Yeah. So when you're looking at it, depending on where you're at, one might say if you're in a place where maybe you haven't healed a little bit and you're in that the conspiracy. Oh, listen, I was there.
No.
They did it to get us off track.
Yep.
Those Mazarites, they're not hiding this, right? But then on the other side, you're like, well, wait a minute. Were they really doing this so that we could phonetically be able to speak the language and retain that? Depends on the lens. So, but you can't, the thing is that you can't take one side or the other. You have to neutralize them. You have to see both running simultaneously.
Cool.
That's where we go quantum. So now let's move to the next word. We're going to move to the next meaning of the Aleph that is in here. All right, so 503. So now, and this is interesting because these are the exact same vowel points. Exact same vowel points. So it's like, so why do they do that? Same vowel points. I don't get it. I just don't question this stuff anymore. I'm like, whatever. Do it or not. So scrolling all the way down, so this is meaning, as you saw, to produce thousands. Here we go. It's from Aleph. We looked at that. Causative, to make a thousandfold. So when you've heard me say in the past the thousandfold anointing, and Ken was sharing with you that once we become into the Alephim, when we become one, the mystery of the many of the one, we have the power to the power of 10. That's what we're talking about here. So, 1 goes to 1,000, 1,000 goes to 10,000, 10,000 to 100,000, 100,000 to 1,000,000. You can see the level of authority as we come together, how much authority that is given to us in this realm when we are reestablished as being one with the all through everything. And the only way that happens is when the position of the heart changes. It's one thing to have it in your head. It's another thing to know it experientially within your heart.
Yeah.
Because the frequency changes. This is why you have authority when you speak. Because out of the mouth, the heart speaks. So now moving on, here's your next definition. Now, you should find this interesting. The simple definition that they put up here is cattle. And so notice there's a vowel point change here. These are sagols. Now, this is interesting because, and this is later on, like further on in the teaching, like I don't teach vowel points right away. I don't really share much about the vowel points because I think it muddles it. But I will tell you this. These little vowel points that are underneath here that have the little dots, they look like 3 little dots. It comes from the word segula or segol. And it means, in one of its definitions, like peculiar, but it also means a gem. So back in Exodus chapter 19, at the base of the mountain, when it says, and it's talking to the tribesmen, I will make you a kingdom of priests, a peculiar people. The word is segula. I will make you my gems. Think of the ephod. Every tribe was standing at the base of the mountain that was going to be given a tablet that was going to be explained to them through oral tradition, the power of the words, so that they could be a kingdom of priests. The kingdom is within, that they would be the gems, the peculiar people that are the gemstones on the breastplate of righteousness. Trying to connect something here for you guys here. The word asin in Hebrew means breastplate. So the Essenes, aka part of the Qumran community, were coming out. They were part of it, but they were like the men. But they were, as the Qumran community, they understood the power of the gemstones, understanding that they were teaching the way of the gemstones. Because every stone had a frequency, every gem represented a tribe, every gem represented a constellation. There's spellings of the tribes' names, there's spellings of the gemstones. So there was a fullness of the process of becoming as that plate was put over the heart to seal it in a frequency that was highly elevated. Why do you think we're drawn to crystals? So technically, every one of those gemstones is connected to a strand of DNA. The 12 strands of DNA, which is then also connected to more of the energetic system, which there's 12 like chakras that go beyond just our 7 here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's connected. If people realize just the depth of this, you get those little emojis with the mind being blown. It's like, yeah, the depth of this goes way beyond anything that we were ever taught. Could you imagine if the churches would actually teach this stuff? That's a radical thought. Could you imagine the change that could be done with all the churches that are out there today that are already organized, supposedly? To be able to take a church that is entropic in nature and make them negentropic because they change the way they teach. And then their whole body begins generating light. And they're already established.
Yeah, but you have to get rid of the stage.
I know. It's interesting that you said that. When Ken and I were teaching our fitness class, I remember we were bringing it into the church because we were close friends with pastors. And we already shared with you some of the stories. So we were close friends with them, and we had talked about it one day, and we were trying to figure out how can we take church to the next level. And this is what Ken said. He says, I'd get rid of the platform, I'd get rid of the podium, I'd get rid of all the chairs, and I'd push them to the side of the room, and we would just have empty space. Get rid of it.
I saw the same thing at the last church I was at.
Get rid of it.
Bonfire, the pews, and the altar.
Yeah. Get rid of it.
Push the pews to the side walls
And so now you have an empty space because it's a matter of, self-expression. So when we're reaching with our body, and if we join in and do worship, and that's what the Spirit wanted me to lay with you guys today later, is about worship. We're going to do some work with words. When you really comprehend it, this is where you get the Sufis. They change their spin as a whirling dirge. There's a Hebrew word that is hul. It means a dance, a whirling motion. It's the hul dance. But when you look at how the word morphs, it's chayil, and it means strength or to be strong. So when the Sufis would do their whirling dervish and they would spin and they would counter rotate, they were representation of that which happens on the inside, and they were manifesting as a form of worship, spinning because they were declaring that they reversed their spin. They were in that place of mysticism. They were creating their own energy. So they were literally spinning out their energy to effect at a much wider range than just staying in their body. They were literally releasing their energy as a whirlwind. As hul. Anyway, so we'll be talking about that today because the components of that is a het and a lamed, and either a vav or a yod, which it will connect to what we're going to share a little bit later today. So back to the Aleph. So in this form, we saw that it was, it said cattle, right? So I'm already thinking about how we are seen in the Matrix as being a bunch of cattle.
Yeah.
Right? But this is, look what it also is.
We're still on 504, right?
This one I think is 504.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Okay. Let me look. Yes, it is. I see it right here. 504. It also means a family. It means a family. So how interesting. Oh, they're a bunch of cattle. Well, no, technically we're all family. How much would that change if we begin declaring that? We're not cattle. We're family.
Mm-hmm.
Also, from the sense of yoking or taming, an ox or a cow. So you will have heard me say many times when I share about the Aleph, is that with the Aleph, there is a yoking and a taming that goes on with us, because when we come in through the veil of forgetting in a negentropic, or not negentropic state, well, technically we're born in a negentropic state, but then our spin gets reversed because we get indoctrinated. Because children are already born with Christ consciousness. They are wide open. They are They are in total unawareness, and then we end up reversing their spin by indoctrination. Anyway, that's another story for another day. So in the taming and yoking, once we get that beast ego condition going on, and this is why mother is so important in the rearing of a child, you don't just let the child wreak havoc and do whatever they want, because their ego needs to be controlled. So when it says the sense of yoking or taming, we're talking about the ego, because it can be a beast or it can be a blessing. Now we're at 505. And this one, I think this one is Aramaic. I think so, because it's 1,000. I could be wrong. Nope, it's Hebrew.
So if you click on that right triangle, will it stop?
You're going to bump into every...
Or does it just keep going?
It just keeps going through the Strong's Concordance.
Strong's
Concordance. The Strong's,
gotcha.
This is what it's based off of,
so
what I'm looking at. I'm
just
going
that way
yep.
to see what's...
Yep.
Okay.
To see every definition of all that letter combination. And this is why sometimes Ken will get led spirally to something else, because he'll keep moving, and all of a sudden the next Strong's through the alphabetical ordering, he'll look at it and he'll go, oh my gosh, because he'll see the connection. And that's why he's like, everything is connected to everything.
Gotcha.
So, good question. Properly, the same as Aleph, hence the ox head being the first letter of the alphabet, and this eventually used as a numeral. So this form that we're looking right here would be like the Paleo Hebrew aspect of it, because it is the ox head. So when you looked at the chart, when it was showing the original form of the first time it was written,
yeah,
right here.
Okay.
So it's 1,000, but it is also the number 1. Right? Because if you odd out all the zeros, it's the first letter, it's either 1 or 1,000. That's why, dependent upon where you are in your journey, if you go from the Alaph and you start at Alaph and you haven't been instructed in everything, you start at 1. By the time you get all the way through the journey of the Alaph through the Tav, you start back at the beginning, and now you're 1,000. So in other words, when you begin the journey, you have no authority, which again, because you haven't been made living. So I'm just connecting it to quantum grammar. You have no authority. You're like a single unit. You're just a single unit. No. So you're a dead entity.
You
can't do anything because you have no authority. That's essentially what happens. When you start in the sacred languages, you have no authority until you begin the journey. And that's why it has to be a personal journey with the language. And so when I have people ask me, do I need to study the language? Well, I'm never going to tell you need to do anything. That's none of my business. But through what the languages say, if you want to have spiritual authority, well, it's a really good idea to do it. So in a way, you can take a look at it, and pretty much like every incarnation that you've ever lived had to do with something with one of the letters. It had to do something with the letters. So in what carnation were you learning about the Bet? And what carnation were you learning about the Gimel? And what incarnation were you representation of the Dalet? So through all the different incarnations, and this is why you begin to remember, because everything is connected to your experience and it's tied into your DNA. So you start studying the letters, there's a lifetime that is connected to the letter. There's memories that are associated with it. It's like, oh, I lived my Aleph life. I lived my Lamed life. I lived my Pei life. I lived my Mem life. And you begin to remember because there's memories that are associated with those letters. Because they're experiences. That's why I said this is a living language. Yeah. Your experiences are tied up with the language, and the language is tied up with you. What came first? What came first? So this is why it unzips you. It's like everything was zipped up in time, and now we're unzipping it, and we're opening it up, and we're looking, and we're taking all the moving parts, and then we're beginning to see who we really are. So it's just kind of interesting. So now we're moved at 506, and we have 1,000 again. And this one is the Aramaic form of it. And I think that's as high as it goes on here. Melef, connected to Melef, I think that's it. Yeah, so this one now is a city in Benjamin. Yeah. I don't think it goes any higher than that. No. Nope. So those are the different aspects of everything that is within the word and the symbol of the Aleph. So I'm going to take it one step further with you guys, though. Just one step. And then we'll stop for now with this moment, and we'll take a break, and we can talk about whatever we want to talk about at this point. But I want you guys to see something here and why this letter is so profound. There's so much here. There's just so much here. I get overwhelmed sometimes. I get ready to share something, and I feel it sit on me, and I'm like, breathe. Just take a moment. Breathe it in, breathe it out. Okay. So the first two letters form a word. So there's words within words, okay? That's part of it too. There's words within words. And at the beginning, you won't see it. The only way you see it is by spending the time in and getting familiar with the language and the letters and how it comes together energetically to form other words. So my purpose in what I'm sharing with you, the Aleph, is for you guys to begin to see the potentiality of the moving from mother into father, and how it's the creative process of the golden mean ratio that builds the form and then fills the essence of it at the same time. So I'm just giving you a big, broad vision of like, here you go. Let's talk about the Aleph. Let's look at the Aleph so that you can see the height, the depth, the breadth, and the width of what this language is doing for us. These two letters that I've highlighted here is the word for God. El. Aleph Lamed means God. So when we did the breakdown yesterday, and we were looking at Yod He Vav He and the 26 and the moving parts, Yod He Vav He equating that to God, well, these first two letters also mean God. So you can't get around it. So in other words, the things that Ken and I share, well, specifically I'm going to speak for me because he comes from a very ethereal kind of realm when he shares things. Very broad, and, he takes all these different spectrums. From where I teach from mother's position as a representation also of father, because I can't present unless I'm both. The way I present is in a fashion where I can show it to you. Meaning, here it is. It's fact. It's fact. It's right here. It's not ethereal. Oh, well, that's not fact. So how do you prove it, right? Well, how do you prove the essence of spirit? It's felt. It's individually experienced. And when it's experienced, it becomes a fact for the individual. But externally, this is fact. I'm showing this to you. This is not indisputable, or this is indisputable. That is El. That is God.
That's what the contracts are doing.
How do we apply this? What does it look like? Because that's what I also have people. So, like, you're showing me all this stuff, but if I can't apply this, then why the hell am I going to spend all this time studying it? Right. I get it. But when you know and you experience that, it changes your vibration, and it changes the way you speak, the way you hear, the way you think, the way you write. It gives you authority that you didn't have before. It activates all your chakras. People are going to know that there's a difference. So then when you begin writing contracts in the lower dimension, you have authority behind it. You're not doing something mechanical. You're doing something that's taking mechanics and a technology and infusing it with spirit, with the organic nature. I like that, organic nation. With the organic nature of becoming, because you are it. So you're not taking someone else's technology and go, well, I know how to write the contract. All of a sudden, that's right. Now you have the authority because you know exactly what you're writing and how to write it. You're not just throwing a word here. Well, I'm going to put this word. I'm going to make sure that I put the colon here, and I got to make sure all these letters and the commas and that it's in the right order and the position, all that. That's good. But what's better is when you have spirit breath behind it.
Yeah.
So the way you write will be more powerful because you are it.
Yeah.
You are taking the celestial authority of the word manifested in flesh and being able to take all of that authority, use the technology in the lower dense worlds to write a contract from celestial position.
And that's what you did in Utah, and that's why Russell hugged you.
Yes, because you chose words because you were writing it from your heart. You were writing it from a celestial position and not from the brain. You were writing it from your heart.
So the
Completely different. So see, Ken is coming up here from the celestial aspect, and he's pulling some lofty concepts down. He's like, and you're like, crap, I can't even connect to what the dude is saying, but I feel it.
Mhm.
Yes, of course you feel it. Because that resonance frequency is touching that God particle in you.
Mm-hmm.
That resonance is already in there, and you're stirring because of it, even though you have no idea what he's saying. And he's trying to communicate it. So then I step in. I'm not saying that I'm less, because I'm not less, but my focus is here in this mother's perspective of it. Like, let me help teach you. Let me show you the mechanics to the organic side so that you can follow along and see where this is coming from of what was birthed up here that is trying to make its way into this lower dense world, because there has to be, it's like there's a hand reaching down and there's hand reaching up. Okay, we're looking at the Aleph all over again. The daisy chains of the Alephs. So you have an Aleph that has got a hand down here, and then you've got one that's reaching up.
Yeah.
So Ken is reaching down, I'm reaching up, he's reaching up to the higher aspects, and we keep bringing it and bringing it and bringing it and bringing it all the way down through all the tiers to until it can attach into this material dense realm. Then we all heave ho together, and then all of a sudden it goes funk, like playing tug of war.
That was a beautiful picture.
We're all like nodes in the consciousness that are carrying our piece of fractal source that we're all connecting together, creating the new neural pathways so that the electrical impulses as electromagnetic beings, we can have these pathways that have been forged and being able to unite as one consciousness, no longer divided. And that's why this is so powerful. So, you take in all of this and you're looking at this. And so having said that, connecting to the Aleph, having the word God in it, you've got through if you want to look at your chart, let's take a look and see what the Aleph says in the paleo. Because
Strength leader.
Okay, you got ox, strength, leader. It also means first. So first top.
Okay.
And then look at the Lamed. What is Lamed again?
The shepherd staff teach to and from, it says.
Mm-hmm. So in that, you've got a strong leader teaching shepherd that has a staff of authority. That's God.
Mm-hmm.
That's God. So when we hear the word God, the way that theology has presented it to us, we're removing it from us when we are it. We're making it outside of us as something that's outside of us. Well, one of the definitions of the word Aleph is family.
Oh my God.
So when we become one, we are one family.
Oh my God.
So when people are saying, well, this oneness, unity, we're all one. You can say that all day until you're blue in the face, until you experience it. And the language is experience. So I had a conversation with somebody on the internet. I love this. I love this woman. I love what she does. And she was trying to share something in a different perspective with my testimony that I was sharing, because I was talking about how important it is to translate your own work. Do it yourself. Because if you're taking somebody else's translated work, you can be touched by it. I mean, so example, let's look at what Lars Mohl presents, or Dale Allen Hoffman, and you feel it. And you're like, oh my gosh, you feel it. But that wasn't yours. It is, because we're all one, and that's why you felt it. But you got touched by it. You didn't become it. You got touched by it. And that's why it did something to you. It's like heart igniting fire. And you're like, oh my gosh. And you got touched by it. But then just as you got touched by it, it fades. And what was that again, man? I need to read that book again. When you do your own translated work, it becomes one with you.
Yeah.
You are no longer touching somebody else's work and touching that frequency and having it touch your heart. Your heart becomes it and you resonate to it as it.
The word can't become flesh unless through experience.
Bingo. And see, this is the part. So again, when people ask me, do I need to study the language? But I don't know. What is the Spirit telling you? But based upon what you just said, what is the Spirit telling you? You said it out of your mouth. I didn't say it.
Yeah.
It only happens if you experience it. It's the word da'at in Hebrew. It's the idea of going through the door. Again, so there's a door that's waiting for us to enter into, and you can say it's a portal. It's like another dimension. Okay, our heart is another dimension. Our heart is another dimension. It is quantum. Our avatars are in the lower frequency, but our heart is quantum. So the door is a portal to another dimension where all things exist, right here. And this is where you go in and you go like, oh man, I got some darkness in here. I've been stuffing some darkness in my heart. The letter Kuf, I'm either compressing light or dark. Dang, I put a lot of dark in there. All that pain, all that suffering, all that shame, all that guilt, all that anger. So the door, so I'm explaining to you through the letters what da'at means, because it means intimate knowledge. That door to the portal to these higher realms gives you access to go in to see your heart, because the Ein's in the middle, and the Ein means to see. It gives you the power to see the areas that you've been fallen in your nature. And when I mean fallen, I'm talking about a lower consciousness. Let's talk about the Hawkins scale of consciousness. So anything below 200 is in the force nature. Anything above is where you start gaining your power. And the first step is courage. So that door is being, the door to a higher dimension is being presented to you through teachings, through those who have become it, who understand it, that are trying to teach the oral tradition to those who are brave enough to take the courageous step, the courageous step to learn something new, because I don't care who you are. It takes courage to embrace something new, because the ego doesn't like it. And the ego wrestles with it. And the ego's like, this sucks. There's a learning curve. I just want to know it now. Damn it. Can't I just touch you and know it now? No, because then you wouldn't value it. You can't touch me and get it because you wouldn't value it. You would just set it on the shelf as a, oh, well, that was cool for the moment. Let me get my next fix. That's it. That's all it is. So we get a dopamine hit when we hear somebody else's translation. A rush of excitement. Oh, wow. But it fades.
Yeah.
So that door is going to open you up to dimensions within you so that you can see what's going on the inside, so that you can reach the end of your journey by completing it. And it's interesting because da'at, door, and then there's the word Ein Tov, a word within a word. Ein Tov means time. You enter in through the door of time to gain an experience, to have experiential knowledge, so that you will know yourself in multi-dimensions. This is why da'at is not, if you look at the tree of life, I'll end up bringing that up. And we can talk about that. When you look at the Kabbalah, tree of life, Adam Kadmon, there is a Sephiroth that is not, it's kind of highlighted. It's just kind of, it's like in a dimension that they don't. So you'll have several schools of thoughts. You'll have mystics say, that doesn't exist, the Puritists. It's only the 10 Sephiroth. But then you have the other ones that say, no, it's there, but it has to be found. It's not just on the surface. It's for the ones that are really courageous, that really want to dig deep. Because you can approach Kabbalah. Now, I've never studied Kabbalah. I don't need to, because the letters, essentially it's the same thing. It's just Kabbalah is an ordered set of writings by other people who have done it. So you're going to somebody else's translated work for them to tell you how to do it, and this is this path. It's not unique. It's their expression. So yeah, you can go in through your mind and you can learn all this stuff and you can read the books. But they cheat you on it because they'll transliterate every single Hebrew word, and you'll see it in English as a transliteration, but they don't keep it with the letters. So are you really learning anything? Or are you just puffing up your head?
Yeah.
Because it's the letters that hold the frequency. The alphabet is a dead language. It doesn't have a resonance frequency that is connected to your heart, to source. So they'll actually cheat you. You think you're getting stuff. All you're doing is getting knowledge to puff up your head. You think you know something, but you didn't experience it. It never went to your heart. You're like, wow, this is amazing. This is bigger. The language is cool. But did you read the book and get changed on the other side? No, you didn't, because you didn't experience the power of the letters. The power of the letters is to transform your life, because the energy signature frequency unlocks your DNA because it's within you. Knowledge. In Hebrew thought, not in English thought, knowledge, that intimate knowledge, is da'at. You don't know anything until you experience it. If you haven't experienced it, then you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Hebrew and Aramaic mindset is, I am never going to speak about anything that I haven't experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have no authority.
Yeah.
No authority. The example that I use, you read a book, How to Ride a Bike. In Western mindset, you can say, oh, I know how to ride a bike because you read the book. But that doesn't mean you really know how to ride the bike. Did you experience it? Or did you just read about it?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's many people that do that.
Yeah.
They'll read Lars Moll's books. They'll read Dale Allen Hoffman's books. Well, I know the language. Really? Did you experience it, or did you experience somebody else's experience of it through secondhand knowledge? Secondhand knowledge isn't the same as firsthand, because it's not yours. It's somebody else's trying to convey something to you, to draw you in, to say, please look at this. There's something so profound, something so deep, and deep calls unto deep. So the only people that are going to come in are the ones who are deep. They already have a depth to them that is just waiting to be remembered. So the language is only going to call to those who are already deep. It's the word Amoq. So there's an initiation process that happens. I throw out all this stuff on the internet to call out to others who want to join in. But then I'll have people that then will turn around and say, well, I don't need to study the language anymore. It helped me get rid of kind of the way I see the Bible. And they'll and this is fine. I'm not judging them, because then they'll say, well, it tuned me into the spirit, and so now I share things from the spirit. But what I hear, I know a lot of these people's heart because I've experienced them. I've spent time in with them. But what'll end up happening is I will hear something that they write, or I will hear something that they speak, and they'll put a video together, or they'll write something, and it's thoughts that are coming out. They're just kind of rolling out their thoughts. And that's why I was sharing with you to listen to, even when people say, well, I think it's this, or perhaps this is this. That's the difference between knowing, da'at, or just thinking and pondering about something. There's nothing wrong with that, because that's kind of the position of meditation, right? We go and we meditate. There's a couple different ways of schools of thought of meditation. But when you couple it with the language, it's like taking a look at this Alaph here, this Aleph Lamed Pei. We're looking at the word for God here. Popped off the TV, but you see my screen right here. Mm-hmm. So you have the Aleph Lamed Pei, and you begin looking at it, and you're like, wait a minute here. Aleph Lamed Pei, Aleph. It's got the word God. Oh, okay. I had to sit back and meditate on this, because now I need to have it assimilate within. Because I took it in up here, I took it in through my eyes, through my mind, I began seeing it. Now I need to sit with it so that I can experience the frequency of what it's saying to my heart. So you'll get somebody that'll come in and they'll listen to teachings. Woo, wow, that made me spinny. Woo. I just started meditating on it when I was talking about you guys. And I made myself spinny. That's so funny. Oh, it's that quick too, man. It's that quick. It's like, whoo, go right into that place and you tap it and it's like, oh, okay, I just got a good punch in my system here. I drank some good punch. So you listen to their words and you listen to what they post, but there's always still like questions lingering. Because there's not a resolve yet. The words are there. The words are there. The ponderances are there, but the resolve hasn't it hasn't happened yet. It's not. So to be made manifest is to have it seen and being very evident, right? So it's not been made manifest yet. It's still a ponderance. I'm thinking about this. So I'm sharing it, but I don't really know it. Kind of talking out loud here. And so there's a difference in the frequency. And that's why I would encourage people to get into the language and just don't listen to the people who are sharing about it. It will touch you. Will it change some things? Sure. If it helps dislodge some of that garbage of theology that we were given in the Bible that gave us the hell principles and gave us some of the other things, you know, for us to beat up homosexuals and judge their lifestyle, but then you go in and you take a look at the verses and you're like, oh my gosh, it's not saying that at all. It's saying we need to remember, right? Changing your mind. It's really repenting from the things that have been holding us back. And unless you dig in, you have no idea. And that's why I have people that ask me, what does this verse mean? What does this verse mean? What does this verse mean? Well, guess what? What it means to me is not going to mean what it means to you,
Right.
because this is my living word.
Right.
And I'm not saying this to separate. I'm just saying it's my personal experience as a fractal of source to be able to bring this back to the collective. So if you're taking my experience, then you're not bringing your experience back to source.
Mm-hmm.
You're just taking my experience secondhand and saying it's yours because you can talk about it. Because I've heard it so many times. Carrie talks about it all the time, so I know it. Do you really know it? Or you've just heard me talk about it 500 times? So this isn't a beat up at all. This is just saying there's a frequency difference, because out of the mouth, the heart speaks. So unless it transfers into your heart and changes you through experiential knowledge, the door in time into the dimensions of your being, the frequency isn't behind it and you don't have the staff of authority. So therefore you are not this. Because the staff of authority in the middle of this word is right smack dab in the middle. So it's the authority of your own heart. So if you don't have authority, so this is why okay. Do you notice how the top portion is poking up?
Mm-hmm.
This is a representation of the heart. So take a look at it as a cross section. So you see the heart and it juts out and it has a point. This is like a cross section of the heart. This top section is pointing up to connect to the throat. And because this is in the center of the word, because it's in the center of this right here, anything, and I can take and show you to it. When you look up the Hebrew word for lev, for heart, it says anything that is in the center. Anything that is in the center, they use the word heart for. So anything in the center. So this lamed is in the center. It's connected to your heart. Again, I show things by that which I can prove to you through the language. I'm not taking you on a rabbit trail of something I can't prove as fact.
Mm-hmm.
So the authority comes from the place of the heart. So if you want to be able to speak with authority, then you need to find the authority within the heart, which means you have to experience it. Because when you look at the tree of life, that place, when it comes from all the chakras, is coming from the place of the heart into the throat up to the head, where the crown is. Right here. So here's the last hidden aspect of this. What you see highlighted, I've left this here intentionally. What you don't see highlighted is the Aleph and the Pei. So think about it this way. I saw a vision the other day of a dandelion when it was in its seeds. When it says to scatter, it means to blow. And Pei has to do with your mouth. So as you're speaking, and you have all these seeds from your mouth because your heart is speaking here, and all of those seeds take flight.
Cool.
The word does not return void. When you have authority, when you speak, you are not speaking in vanity. The word isn't void. So I'm even thinking about contracts. So when I speak from the place of my heart, because I became the Word as flesh, I have experiential knowledge. I entered into the portal of my heart where I'm a dimensional being. The words that I speak carry authority, and they will scatter those words that do not. Because the authority has been given to me, because I am of the Alephim. I am family. I have the instruction of my heart. I have become one. So in the process of our becoming, we become the strong leader, teaching shepherds that have been given the mouth to speak with authority to scatter the seeds so that the words that we speak will not return void. They are life. They are not of the dead. They are of the living. Because only life can speak from the heart. If you're dead, you are of the one family, the one authority. You are of the essence of the unseen that is everywhere, that is and is not simultaneously. You're speaking from a quantum position in the infinite potential of everything. And that's all connected. But yet there's one more.
I love it.
So the Aleph pay is a word. So it's flanking the lamed that's in the middle. Off pay means to have it's to face. It also means nose, but it also is a place of like being irksome, like having almost an enraged sense. And the reason why I'm bringing this up to you is because this pay is in a fallen state. Our goal is the Aleph, is to become the Alephim. And why is this important? Why are you bringing this up, Carrie? This is a single Aleph. This is a single Aleph. When it becomes plural, just showing you how the word is written, when it becomes plural, you've heard Ken say it. I said it a few minutes ago. I said Alephim. Alephim has a yod mem. Do you remember when Ken said that in when we were in Crestone, he never got to talk about the yod mem? Do you remember hearing him say that? You might have not caught it. He said that he was supposed to talk about the im, the yod mem, the im, and he never got to it. It's a word that means sea, like as in S-E-A, and it's tied to everything that he's been talking about, the law of the sea. Mm-hmm. Okay? The reason why this Aleph pay is here, and it has to do with even anger or having the face and having anger, is because as an individual, when you are taking the power of authority and you are separating yourself and you are standing out from the rest, you can tend to be still in the earth, meaning you are choosing to remove yourself from the many, to be part of the sea of humanity. You are standing out from the rest, saying, I am the Aleph, I'm the Alpha. So what happens is the authority that they have within them through the Aleph pay, they can be provoked to anger. They can also suppress because it's got a fallen leg. It means they're in the material realm, and the mouth that is speaking, that should be bringing life, has now removed themselves as an individual, and they're using their power on the individual basis. It was never meant to be that way. That's why Alaph, because the pay is in the Sophit position, it's in a fallen position. But in the end, it will be given the power to make covenant and end their journey no longer in the fallen position. So that means that when we all get to this place, that we need to realize that we're not individuals standing alone. We are part of the family. So when I reach this place, and we all reach this place, we are speaking for each other as one. The mystery of the many who are one. You become the Alephim, the plural form. This is where the yod and the mem is given to you. Now you have the power and the authority of the waters of peace. Because now you're not doing it solo, you're doing it together. We've all become one together. And when you recognize that and you realize that every time you open your mouth, you're speaking for the collective. Because we are one.
Yeah.
What does this do to your mouth? You watch what you say. Because it affects the collective. It affects all of us. Our words create or they destroy. Power of life and death is in the tongue. It's the word lashon but it can mean the tongue, the organs of speech, but it also means in language. The power of life and death is the language right here. This is a living language that affects matter. So we begin to realize that the words that we're speaking, the things that we are creating, we are then very mindful of them because it affects all of us because we are one. That means your speech is never in a fallen position. It's in a risen position because you've been given the power of Father. You are part of peace. You are not in the waters of chaos. You are the waters of peace. You're generating your own energy, which will then affect matter in the matrix. So that means that you are in the quantum position of past, present, and future simultaneously in your now space.
Multidimensional.
Multidimensional.
In the realm that was created by God.
Correct.
Man.
Correct. That's why Da'at is so important, because it's a door, it's a portal in time that allows you to access the multidimensional frequency of the being who we are at the heart level, because that's where it is. It's not from the head level, it's from the heart level. So in other words, your frequency will be different in everything that you do, everything that you speak, everything that you say, everything that you write, just your frequency. So in other words, through your writings are going to carry that frequency. Because if you wrote a contract without having that frequency, it won't have the same effect. You can use the same exact words, but the problem is we're writing it, because of the way the system is, we're writing it in an alpha language that is dead.
Yeah.
And you're infusing life to the dead words through your frequency. So you're using their technology, but you're infusing it quantumly through as a multi-dimensional being that is tapped to the power of their heart. So therefore, every word that is spoken does not return void, because I am a living being and I am speaking Chaya. I am speaking the breath of life into these words. So therefore, I'm coming to the court as a multi-dimensional being that can be multiple places simultaneously, past, present, and future. I am omnipresent.
Mm-hmm.
I am omnipresent.
Whoa.
And that's the power of what this language does, because when you begin to see these things and you begin to become them, you then can see multi-dimensions happening simultaneously in all these different perspectives through time, into timelessness, into your now space.
Nap time.
Pretty much. Pretty much.